are what make us what we are. So thank you again.
Next, we will recognize Ackerman Elementary School in the Choctaw County School District. And representing the school is Principal Samantha Kelly. Ms. Kelly, Ackerman Elementary School was chosen as an ESEA National Distinguished School for closing the achievement gap between student groups. Ackerman Elementary has maintained its A rating for 2 consecutive years. The school's students with disabilities achieve the highest proficiency rate in reading in the state. And additionally, the school met all 4 state goals for reading and math achievement and improvement. Ackerman Elementary School is recognized today for successfully using its ESEA federal funds to improve educational outcomes for all students. So congratulations to Ackerman Elementary, and Ms. Kelly, you're welcome to make remarks at this time.
Thank you. Again, I would like to say thank you so much for this honor. Our students, our staff have worked incredibly hard. We have some of the most amazing teachers, and this recognition would not be possible without them. We also have great support from our community, our parents, and again, our central office. Thank you.
Right. Next up is our report from the superintendent, Dr. Evans.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll roll through this rather quickly. So just a couple of items here from a legislative standpoint, just some information. Appropriations, and when you're talking about appropriations and revenue bills, March the 17th was the deadline for original floor action on appropriations and revenue bills. So we're to that point, and we're to that point in the session. So a lot of work is happening. I appreciate all the work of everybody in the agency. Lots of times people don't realize the requests that we get from the Capitol, they have to be turned around quickly because, it's one of those deals where yesterday was too late, right? So it's always in a hurry. I appreciate Holly Spivey and everything that she does. She's probably mad at me because I'm saying her name publicly, but she's not even looking up. But I appreciate her tremendously for what she does. That is a very difficult job that she has, in addition to everything else she does. So I appreciate her tremendously for that. A big topic right now in both the House and the Senate and statewide is the teacher pay raise. We obviously are supporting that as much as we possibly can. We know that our teachers need that. Our average teacher pay has, while it went to the top of the heap, if you will, very quickly other states increase theirs, and it causes you to fall back. So just when you look at the teacher pay raise from the Senate side, which it was HB 1395, the Senate passed a strike all to the HB 1395 to provide a $6,000 pay raise phased in over 3 years. That would move the starting salary to $47,500 for a teacher with a single A by year 3. So that is that 3 year. That's the $2,000 per year up to the 3 years to get it there. It also included that same $3,000 raise for special education teachers. That's in addition to the 6, and then a $2,000 raise for assistant teachers. And it involved also raises at the community colleges and universities for the professors there. The teacher pay raise from the Senate side is SB 2103. The House put the teacher pay raise, they actually put it in Senate Bill 2103, their raise, or their language for the raise, I'm sorry. And the $3,000 raise for special education stayed the same, but theirs was a little different because they were looking at a $5,000 pay increase that would go into effect next year. There's not a phase in for that. So I trust that they'll make the best decision based on the state budget and what we have the dollars to do. But I do appreciate our lawmakers and their acknowledgement of the hard work of our teachers and how at the end of the day, everybody always says there is no silver bullet. Well, I can tell you the closest thing to the silver bullet is the teacher in the classroom. That's the bottom line. So we have to make sure that we hold on to our teachers. We currently still have 14 education bills that have remained alive, or excuse me, that are still alive over there. I can't remember, Ms. Spivey, how many was there total at the very beginning? Yeah, 367. So, and then there were 14, right? So we've dwindled it down to 14. And of course, those are getting worked on every day. I did have a principal advisory council meeting. During that meeting, I provided updates on standard setting for the accountability model. We talked through the entire process, the raising of the standards. Dr. Van Cleve was there as well, and she really worked primarily with the PGS system, the administrative growth system that we have. We've decreased the number of standards there and consolidated to make it much easier for our administrators. And all of that work was driven by recommendations from that focus group. So I appreciate their work, and it's been, to my knowledge, it's been received well across the state. Student Advisory Council, we had some virtual meetings with them. We made a commitment to them to get their input on additional topics throughout the year, in addition to just the topics that they chose to focus on. So we did that this month with different MDE leaders around the agency and the students as a whole. We always have great participation. It's amazing to me how good the input that we get from our students really is. I mean, we do really take that to heart and push things forward based on that, because we know at the end of the day, they're the ones that we're here for. And it's really good for them to have an opportunity to have some input in the decisions and, the decisions that we make pushing things forward for the state. So I had a couple stakeholder meetings. USDE, I do appreciate Secretary Baszler. She is doing her best to bring state chiefs to the table, make sure that there is constant communication. We didn't really get a lot. Actually, there was very little of that whatsoever at all until she was confirmed and put into place. I tremendously appreciate her doing that. She's straight from the position, so she gets it. She has not been removed from that position more than about 6 months now, I guess she's been in that job. So I appreciate the work that she's doing, but also had another Chiefs Roundtable with Secretary McMahon, and the primary focus of that was the future of the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitation Services, as well as the Office of Civil Rights, and how those are being maneuvered across the federal agencies, because lots of times what you're seeing here is they're taking offices out of USD and actually placing them in other governmental agencies, is the way they see fit, the way they think that it works best. So there was that was an update there. I appreciate that tremendously. If they don't provide that, we don't get it. I mean, it's important that we have that open line of communication. Also had a WIOA meeting. We are working with Accelerate and looking at a state combined plan there. There's not a lot of work to that. Our part has already been done. They've decreased some of the hurdles to working and putting that together as a combined plan. So I appreciate Accelerate and Dr. Taylor for her working with us to try to get that accomplished. And I think it's just another way that we can show how we're working together with Accelerate. Brett and John, they do a great job there in making that happen. I had a meeting with the Ohio Education Chief, Stephen Dakin. He is, it started out talking about literacy and just some of the academic work that we're doing, but it turned into, he and I are planning on setting up, Dr. McGehee, you know how you, for years, did the light groups? Because one of the things that, I'm used to that. In our state, we do that. So superintendents, we have them, principals, we have them, assistant principals, we have them, and you're intentional about sitting in a room and talking with each other. Well, as in the position that I'm currently in, other than if you see them at a conference, there's no intentionalness about it. So we're going to get together and put a group of state chiefs together and start trying to build that to where, if nothing else, once a month for an hour. It's very good to sit down, have a conversation, have specific topics, because you learn from them, They were calling us to learn, but we learned from them as well. And the other thing is it lets you know that everybody's in the same boat, if that makes sense, right? So also met with Valerie Greenhill, the new president of SREB. I appreciate her and the work that SREB does for us. It was a great meeting. And had a couple of speaking engagements. Spoke at MASA, and MSBA, both of those conferences. Primarily, we're focusing on the Mississippi Leads, Mississippi Reach, and talking through the implementation of the higher accountability standards. Just one quick, I think you can never communicate this enough. Remember, those accountability standards, the only thing that was done was the cut scores, if you will, were increased. There was nothing changed about the test. The test is the very same test that it was. It's just that increase in cut scores, if you will. And remember, we met that threshold in 23, and we're given grace to wait until 26 to implement that. 25, I'm sorry, to implement that. We at the end of the MSBA meeting, MSBA was gracious enough to let us use their room, and we had about a 2-hour meeting with superintendents. That was a real positive meeting, providing information for them. And then I was lucky enough, during Read Across America Week, I went to Madison Crossings Elementary School and read a book, and it was One Smart Cookie. I don't know if you've ever read it. I really appreciated it. I learned that I try to add too much to it as I go, and it causes the book to go a little long. So the kids told me they liked it, so I felt like I won. But anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you. For my report, and I want to be brief about this, there's 2 topics that are going around the districts and throughout the state that are causing a lot of people consternation and concern.
They both start with the letter A. One is audits, which we're going to get into here in a little bit. The other one is the accountability standards. On the accountability standards, by law, we were required to raise them once every district, let me make sure I read this right, districts or schools earn a B or higher grade, which naturally means when you raise those standards, there's not going to be 65% that have that anymore, because guess what? If we do that and everybody has 65 or higher, guess what we do next year? We raise them again. And I mean, I wish that would happen, but the reality is A's are going to be B's, B's are going to be C's, and so on. And from my perspective, that's okay. I mean, look, you may drop a letter grade, it's okay. In my opinion, don't focus on next year. Focus what it looks like in 3 years. Because if you drop to a B and move to an A in 3 years, you've raised the standards in your district. That means the ultimate goal that everybody wants. Because at the end of the day, all these grades have nothing to do with anybody in this room, or any school board, or any principals, or teachers, or anything. It's all about the kids. And if we're getting these kids to higher standards, I mean, in 3 years, I hope to over 65% or higher, or B or higher, because we have to raise them again, and that means we're doing like this. So it's, to me, everybody just relax, understand that your grades are going to go down. Have to. It's a natural progression of things, and it's going to be okay. Focus on what you can do if you drop to a B or an A. If in 3 years you're an A, you've made great progress, at least in my opinion. So with that, we'll move on to better things, which is our student reports. Crosby is not with us this week because I believe he is attending the Model UN. Is that right, Glenn?
Yes, sir.
So I'm sure we're going to get a great report from him about that. So that leaves Michelle with her report, which she's going to talk to us about her experience in a youth leadership workshop.
Good morning. So today I'd like to share my experience at it's called the Electric Cooperatives of Mississippi Youth Leadership Workshop, and it was held in Jackson a couple of weeks ago. So this workshop, it was basically an opportunity for students across Mississippi to learn about business cooperatives, their leadership skills, and then experience the democratic process at the state level, because we got to meet with our representatives at the Capitol. And so during this program, I spent 3 days in Jackson with students from across the state, and we did a lot of fun team challenges, leadership exercises, and honestly, at first, it just felt like a super fun program. And then as we were moving on, we worked in groups, and we were trying to complete different tasks. But as the days went on, I realized that each activity had a specific meaning to it. So even though it seemed like it was just a silly activity where you would pass an object around, it was actually some like focused on communication, some was on problem solving, and then some was on learning how to trust and depend on people around you. So what was surprising was that I didn't really realize that I was learning at the moment when I was participating in it. But then we would finish the game, and then the leader who would lead the exercises and the activities would explain the meaning behind it. And so because I experienced the lesson by participating in the program rather than just listening about it and kind of learning it based off of like a PowerPoint, it stuck with me more. So this experience kind of made me reflect on how we would learn in school. So obviously, like textbooks and lectures and lessons are extremely important because they build the foundation. But this workshop showed me that sometimes the lessons that stay with us the longest are actually the ones that we experience firsthand. So I was just wondering if, like, at school, teachers could incorporate more activities inside the classrooms. Like, for example, a teamwork challenge to demonstrate, like, problem-solving simulations in math, or a collaborative activity in English to teach us lessons, but not just teaching it based off of, like, PowerPoints. So not every student learns best by simply just listening to the information. Some students can understand concepts more deeply when they actually participate and apply what they're learning. So the YLC, like the Youth Leadership Workshop, that showed me that learning can be meaningful and enjoyable all at once. And even small moments of interactive learning can help students build the leadership skills without realizing that they're doing it. Thank you.
Okay, this month we had two of our subcommittees met. The first one was a legislative subcommittee, which myself, Mr. Mayo, and Mr. Jacobs were on. I'll save you the details because Lance already covered all of them. So things are happening. It's very positive on the money side because everything that we're asking for is still alive. And again, I would echo what Dr. Evans said about Holly. She is very instrumental in this process and does an excellent job navigating as best as anybody can all of those inner workings of the legislature. So the other committee is the State School Subcommittee, Mr. Jacobs.
Okay. I'm reporting for Mike, who asked me to report for him because he's out of town. But the State School Subcommittee did meet Monday, and besides the 3 state schools, we're also over the 6 districts of transformation, 2 of which we added in October 25, one for finance reasons, the other due to academic issues. The Office of School and District Transformation is working closely with the Office of Academic Education to align the instructional needs of the districts. An outside entity will be hired to do a deep dive into Wilkinson County's finances so they can get a snapshot of what the district has at this point in time. MDE is working on a plan to ensure the districts are being trained so we can ensure the districts have the needed training and experience in HQIM and know how to use it. The Office of School and District Transformation is working on a guidebook for items to cover, such as valuation, 30 to 60 days in, going through the process, et cetera. The timeline when going into the districts is to look at the districts and the school ratings, fix what can be fixed before the academics are touched. This will lead to better test scores, finances, and people doing their jobs. We also reviewed a copy of the Mississippi School Deaf and Blind's audit report, which I think we all have received in our packet. There were 2 insignificant findings, and NSDB staff are working on clearing up those issues. The 23 audit report should be finished in late March or early April. We did discuss the Department of Transformation, to bring updates to the board once in the fall and once in the spring and have 1 or 2 districts per board meeting. The update from Wilkinson County School District can go to the board in April or May to tell where we are now and what's been resolved. A template will be created for the districts to use to present, and a separate for those district transformations, and a separate template for the state schools when they report to us at least annually, maybe in next February. And that's all we have.
Thank you. All right, our first item on the agenda is approval of the updated strategic plan. Dr. Evans.
Yes, sir. The PowerPoint there. I'll be very brief. Okay, all right, so, at our last meeting, we had some conversation around this. Wanted to gather any potential additional input that our board members had. We gathered that input, made the necessary changes or additions, if you will, based on it, to get us to the point where we currently are. So you see, each of you have a copy of the current strategic plan, the potential new strategic plan, I apologize, in front of you. I appreciate Ms. Cook and her team for starting the process of getting this put into a format that looks very, very nice. They're very, very talented in her office, and I appreciate that. But I wanted to go through a PowerPoint very quickly, and just, again, some of this is repetitive from last month, but just to show you some of the similarities and the differences so that it helps you as well as the general public, any of those that are watching our meeting, have a general idea as to what this looks like. I'm not going to go through the timeline again. You have it. You've had it multiple times, but this just shows the timeline and the effort that have been put in beginning in May to December, and shows the stakeholders, the people that were involved, and leading us to the point that we are today. And you know this was done as a board, the establishment of the vision and mission. Every student is prepared for success. Then our mission to build a world-class educational system that equips every student with the knowledge and skills to succeed in college, careers, and life in Mississippi and the world. And we feel like we've accomplished that in this update of our strategic plan. The 6 goals, we did have 6 goals previously. We have 6 goals now. And you can read those goals. Every child has access to high-quality early childhood programming and is prepared for kindergarten. I'm sorry to read to you, but it's important to read these. Every student develops strong literacy and mathematics skills in all grades. Every student graduates prepared for success in college, career, or military service. Every school and district demonstrates strong academic outcomes and continuous improvement. Every school is fully staffed with qualified, effective teachers and leaders. And 6, which is the new goal, and the 5 goals are similar, and I've got that on an additional slide, and I'll point some of that out. But the 6th goal, all students attend schools and districts with safe, engaging, and supportive environments. So when you look at the similarities, the first 5 goals, those are pretty standard goals that any educational agency is going to have for a state. But again, the fifth one, it was somewhat intertwined in some of the other goals in the previous plan. We felt that it was important enough that we actually pull that out itself, and create a goal itself for that, because in the world that we live in today, the world's very different than it was 10, 15 years ago. And the struggles that our students face, the struggles that our teachers face, the struggles of the world and the external forces onto our schools have changed tremendously. So some of the changes, the most substantive changes here, the plan reflects statewide input, where the previous plan basically was more so state board oriented. This one is, even in the title, the Mississippi Strategic Plan for pre-K grade through 12th grade education. So it's a all-encompassing strategic plan. The core values that were added, and you can, if you'll flip to page 3 in your document here, you see those core values, and we as a board, or you as a board, I'm sorry, when we worked through the vision and mission, you also created these core values. And remember, these are the core values that what we said were important that for every Mississippi graduate. And those core values are integrity, accountability, excellence, innovation, work ethic, and communication. And again, the third bullet here on the key changes is that the addition of the the 6th goal. A couple of things structurally, it's a more succinct vision and mission with we wanted to make sure that everything in this was very Mississippi focused, that it was communicated to all stakeholders. The primary focus of this, obviously, is Mississippi and our students and our school districts, and we think we've accomplished that. We've streamlined actions in place of objectives and strategies. The way we were intentional in the way we designed the plan, because, strategies are important, objectives are important, but the way we did it, just like you can see in your document, and I'm sorry I don't have this on the screen, but you have the goal and we have the specific actions. These are the actions that we are taking to achieve this goal. Then we have the specific measures. This is the way that we will measure, and we have circled around internally and ensured that we measure all of these things, obviously. We didn't want to put something in that we don't measure. And there was a couple of things that we had to make some changes internally in order for us to start measuring. So now we have that worked out. So we are all in the clear there. So the new focus area, the new goal 6, some of the things that are included in that are a promotion on consistent school attendance. While it was implied in the previous, this is very intentional. With school attendance, we know chronic absenteeism obviously is a topic that in Mississippi we focus on tremendously. The integration of career learning from pre-K through 12th grade, that's also part of the Office of School and District Transformation, and where we put CTE obviously is in there, but the Workforce Development Office resides in that, under that umbrella as well. And you got an update on that from Dr. Farrell 2 meetings ago, I believe. There was a misprint, and we got that fixed. I had about a dozen people email me, say, hey, can I get a copy of that new plan? I'm like, it was just an update, So we got that corrected. It will be finished up soon so that you can get that full presentation. But it's that intentional integration of it, the development and integration of technology standards into the Mississippi College and Career Readiness Standards, developing school and district leaders. We have, like I've said multiple times before, we've opened up that Office of Leadership, and we're being extremely intentional. I say this all the time. If the leader of the organization wants it to happen, then it happens. It's our responsibility as an agency, educational agency, to help equip our leaders with the information that he or she needs to make quality decisions. That is very important. I'm very passionate about that. And the last bullet here is provide a unified, coordinated system of support to low-performing schools and districts. In the Office of School and District Transformation, I will tell you, there is so much cross-agency coordination that's going on there between the academic houses and the school improvement house and the accountability house. I am extremely pleased with the amount of coordination that happens there. I mean, we are truly on the same team, because if we weren't, I would be failing. And I can assure you, that integration across the different program offices has been wonderful. And we're able to streamline all of those services that we have that we're offering in our districts. This is the last slide here. Just the next steps would be, obviously the next step would be for you to approve it. But if you do choose to approve the plan formally, we'll announce that plan throughout the state in a news release today, and then obviously share the plan with districts and schools. We're in the process now of developing the scorecard, because there's a scorecard that goes with this. We'll obviously still have the annual update. We'll obviously still have all the stuff that goes along with that, but this is just a way that this is as much a measuring stick for us internally as it is the state to see. It's a way that it's a constant update. It's a constant check-in of, are we moving forward with our strategic plan, and what are the outcomes of it? And then the last bullet there is provide an update on the outcomes and measures to ELBO, Legislative Budget Office. We have to turn in our strategic plan to them each year, and then show our progress towards that. So we're held accountable, obviously, to ourselves with our strategic plan. We're held accountable to you, but obviously we're also held accountable with our funding and showing a return on our investment to our lawmakers. So any questions that y'all might have? You mind putting them back on the screen, please, sir? Thank you, sir.
Anybody have any questions or comments? I would like to thank everybody that participated in this, from those who were in the focus groups to legislatures who weighed in, the business community that weighed in, everybody that was at NDE that was a part of this, board members for y'all's participation in putting this together. Frankly, this seemed like a difficult task to begin with, but we moved this along very, very quickly. And I think we have a very good plan in place for the next 5 years that adapts to, like Dr. Evans says, it's a difference. We're different now than we were 10 years ago. So if no one else has anything, do I have a motion to approve the new strategic plan?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. East, Mr. Jacobs on the first and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Very good job, everyone. Thank you. Okay, next on our list is approval and renewal of districts and schools of innovation for 26-27.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to leave the room at this point because the Gulfport School District is in your conversation.
Yes, we will note that in the,
If I have you asleep back there, make sure you come get me.
I'll send somebody out there to wake you up. All of it.
Voting.
Yes, everything on this particular one.
Good morning, Chairman Miller, Dr. Evans, and members of the board. The Office of Academic Education brings forth for your approval 3 new districts of innovation, renewal of 2 districts of innovation, and renewal for 2 schools of innovation. And then also we had 2 amendments to current districts of innovation. Am I doing something wrong? Okay, so let me try again. We're good so far? Okay, very good. We'll see if this works. As you may know, because we come to you every March with these plans, legislation was actually passed back in 2015, Mississippi Code 371791, that allows school districts and schools within a district to apply for District of Innovation or School of Innovation status. And when a school, as we vet these applications and we bring forth to you for approval, these schools and districts receive designations that give them the opportunity to develop and implement new or creative alternatives to existing instructional and administrative practices intended to improve student learning. That's kind of the purpose of it. Of course, this does fit in, obviously, with our mission and our current mission and vision, as well as our future mission. The idea here is to better prepare students for success in life and work by allowing districts to flexibly serve the student population on a daily basis. So that is, and a lot of these districts are doing everything from expanding choices as far as what the students are learning, enhancing the learning opportunities that they have. And we always promote increasing student engagement, which of course impacts attendance and other things. So throughout, Dr. Marshall will share with you some just highlights of the plans we received, and you'll see those peppered throughout those plans. I don't know what is wrong with me today. Am I like doing something wrong? Okay. So just real quick, there's a map of our districts and schools of innovation. The big thing I just want to point out here is that if all of the plans, amendments, renewals are approved today by you, we will then have 13 districts of innovation. We will have 5 early college high schools. We will have 7 middle college high schools. And then we will have 6 schools of innovation peppered again throughout our state. Keep in mind that many of the 13 districts of innovation, we call them districts of innovation, but they too may house within their district of innovation an early college high school and or a middle college high school. So at this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Marshall, who will, like I said, give you just a highlight of our applications. I do want to say, although she's not here today, she had a family emergency. Dr. Chanello Graves has joined our team as of March. She will be working with our districts and schools of innovation, as well as our Bridge to Careers, particularly as it relates to students with IEPs who are participating in that transition course. If you might not know this or remember this, but Dr. Chanello Evans was actually the director of the Tougaloo Early College High School for many, many years. And she is also the one who wrote the middle college high school plan for JPS. That was very unique in the sense that it was building math teachers within the district, which was a very innovative practice and has been going very well. So we are proud that we were able to get her here at the Department of Education so she can work with other districts as well. Dr. Marshall? You got yours.
So we have three new districts of innovation. All 3 of these are going to focus on flexibility in 3 focus areas: instructional delivery, staffing, and scheduling. All 3 have an emphasis on student-centered innovation, and all 3 have some expected outcomes that include increased achievement, access to increased coursework, and workforce alignment. So the first one is Newton County. Newton County is implementing a 5x5 schedule to support more innovation and workforce opportunities there, especially as it relates to STEM, the science of reading, and AI integration into their curriculum. Union is implementing a specific ISPs for students based on a 5x5 schedule also, but they're implementing a what I need time for intervention, enrichment, and individualized supports for students. It just expands their opportunities to be able to increase their offerings there at the school. Next one is Western Line. Western Line is a little bit unique because they've had 2 high schools that were schools of innovation in the last few years, and this is bringing in the rest of their schools to become a district of innovation. They're taking a design of the 7th and 8th grade using a 5x5 block, implementing a STAR Academy to implement innovation within their intervention system. And they're also implementing a middle college within this opportunity. Those are our 3 new ones. Renewals, we have 4 renewals of DOI or SOI. The first one is Boonville. Boonville has an amended, it's a renewal, but they have an amended idea here, really innovative, where they are taking an apprenticeship approach to the innovation, where the students will actually go out into the workforce to learn the career technical ed in ed prep and with HVAC work in the next cycle. So that's really cool. I think it's a really cool way that they're trying to implement that program. Corinth is renewal here of the Cambridge International Curriculum. That one is not a lot different from where it was. We did talk with their superintendent. There is some conversation about how what the Cambridge looks like in the future. So they're on your board item. It's a 2-year renewal for them. We'll see an amendment either to stay with that or to change. Gulfport is still implementing their strong community partnerships, their middle college offerings, and their internships that they have currently going. And Gulfport has their ISPs from elementary all the way through high school, so they're going to continue that. And then Jackson Public is going to continue their opportunity to work with Toulouse College with their early college high school and implement that program where they can earn an associate's degree while they're still in high school. Then we have 2 amendments. Hinds County, their early college is asking to expand to the Utica campus of Hinds to increase their offerings to students that in that area have typically been underserved. So that's one amendment. And then Meridian doesn't have a slide, but Meridian is not necessarily an amendment, but they were, I guess, an oversight in the last cycle. They were put in as a school of innovation in the board item, and their application truly was a district of innovation. And so we're just asking for that to be amended to the correct designation.
And at this time, we will entertain any questions that you might have. Or Brian will. Dr. Marshall.
Anyone have any questions? So, do I have a motion to approve the renewal of these districts and schools of innovation for the period stated in the
Separate. I move to approve the renewal and the renewal, the approval of new, and the amendments to what was proposed.
what he said? Do I have a second? Dr. Barrett, thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank y'all very much for that.
Thank you.
Next up, we have several contracts on our agenda. Ms. Wiggins.
Robinson.
I forgot
he was out there.
Ms. Wiggins.
Good morning. I've got 4 contracts to bring before you today for review. And the first contract is for Renaissance Learning. This contract is for $2.7 million. It's a 5-year contract to provide services in support of our K-readiness assessment. The second contract is also a 5-year contract with the Focus Group to provide services to our Office of Child Nutrition for media strategy, planning and execution of to publicize our summer food service program. The total amount of that contract is $240,000. The third contract is an emergency contract, a contract with Cavion to support our statewide assessment security, to provide security services, testing security services for the 2025-2026 school year. And that amount is $400,000. And the last is a contract modification with the North Mississippi Education Consortium, and it is a modification to expand the services provided under that contract in support of the statewide training for district test coordinators and for the Mississippi Reach Remote Teaching Program. There are no dollars tied to this increase, just an expansion of the scope of services.
Does anyone have any questions about these contracts?
The second one for the child nutrition program?
Yes.
That's just the planning piece of it. That's not the media buy and the placement of all the, whatever they'll do, huh?
No, this is just the media plan,
Formulation
just
of the plan.
the formulation of the plan, yes.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the contracts listed as items 3A, B, C, and D? Mr. Mayo, do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. McGee, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Next up is our educator in residence grants for mathematics coaching supports. Ms. Clemens.
In 2023, the State Board of Education approved a mathematics coaching initiative to strengthen teacher capacity, improve student achievement in grades 3 through 8 and Algebra 1. And so we come forth today, we are wanting to award competitive grants in the amount of basically $16.9 million. Those, over a 5-year period, those grants will be, we will have those grants with 21 EIR districts, eligible EIR districts to support coaching positions, 35 coaching positions, and of course, the continuation of that is contingent upon performance and obviously availability of funds. But that's what we're asking. We're trying to do it in a 5-year increments. So that's what we're requesting.
Plymouth, so EIR is educators, residents?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Anyone else have any questions? Do I have a motion to approve item 4 regarding these grants?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Reeves.
Either way you want to write it.
Thank you. I appreciate your enthusiasm to move things along. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Thank you.
Our next item is the approval to provide Mississippi Administrative Code 724 regarding, I'm just going to say, we're talking about audits. Probably the easiest thing to say. Dr. Vanderford.
Thank you. During board prep, we did ask Dr. Evans for permission to move this from consent to the agenda because we thought that there may be a few questions and like everybody disappeared on me. So, I was like, so Sam, come on, sit with it. But, so we have been having this discussion for quite some time. It's back from November, I think. And you'll see in the board item, we did open the public comment period on January the 16th. It ran through February the 18th. We did have one public comment, which is included in your backup material, but all of us, the staff associated with this process, did meet and determined that we felt like there were no revisions needed to the policy as proposed by the state board, since the policy as it is written with the may and the shalls and where they're placed within the policy does give MDE staff discretion to make recommendations to the Commission on School Accreditation and on through the State Board of Education, taking into account the individual circumstances of each district. So one thing that I do want to share that we've talked about internally and we haven't talked about in a public meeting when we look at our consequences for these districts. So we do have accreditation policies in place that we are required to follow when we're making recommendations to downgrade a district's accreditation status or to withdraw their status. And in accordance with that accreditation policy that governs the downgrade, districts have a right to a hearing. So once we notify a district that we would be taking action for any of the areas in which we have purview to downgrade their accreditation status, these audits, financial compliance, not necessarily the audits, but just serious financial concerns regarding compliance. It's just one of those reasons. The district would have 10 days to respond to the Office of Accreditation and request a hearing. And at such time, both the MDE and the district would have the opportunity to present their case, for lack of a better terms, to the hearing officer or to the Commission on School Accreditation. So the district would have the opportunity. And the only other thing that I would like to add, now I do not have a list of the districts, but if you'll recall back when we started having this conversation in November, there were about 19 districts or so that were missing their FY23 audit. I think the number was less than that when you approved the policy, but that number is now down to 13. And we started out with a list of around 47 districts that were missing their FY24 audits. That list is now down to about 32. And so so there's 19 that's only around 19 districts that are only missing FY24, but when you combined it with the 13 that's missing the FY23, we have a pool of about 32 districts that are out of compliance. And, just for transparency, there's no way that the MDE, the Office of Accreditation, would have the capacity to look at 32 districts at one time and downgrade and make a recommendation to downgrade their accreditation status and us be able to prepare for 32 hearings. So as we move forward to FY25, which the deadline we know is approaching is March 31st, and Ms. Atkinson did notify us that they are coming in at a much faster pace for FY25 than they have in the past. So we have 63 districts that have already submitted their FY25 audits. So we're seeing, since this conversation began in November and approval of this policy, we're seeing an uptick and some positive movement forward in getting these audits turned around. So what I would say about the districts that we have that are non-compliant, prior to any action that's taken by the Office of Accreditation, we would internally have to determine how we would triage those districts to the capacity that we could handle. So I think we would start with those that are the most grossly negligent. For an example, maybe districts that don't even have a contract for, have a signed contract to conduct the audit. So those are ones that we would determine to be the most egregious. And Paula speaking without engaging any other MDE staff or Dr. Evans, I think that's where we would start with the most egregious. Because I want to be clear, we don't have the capacity on April 1st to contact the state auditor's office and say how many districts were late. Clear distinction between what it means to be late and missing or outstanding, and determine how many were late or how many were outstanding, and then have a meeting with Dr. Malone and work through that and start notifying districts of sanctions. We just don't have, I have to be transparent and say that we do not have the capacity to do that we will have to determine how we triage and address those that have the most serious financial findings. And those are outlined in the policy there for you in how we define a negative fund balance, less than a 7% fund balance in the district maintenance fund, an adverse or disclaimer of an opinion, or one or more outstanding audits.
Are there, of the most outstanding, the ones we're still waiting on, 2020, all the 23s are done, or we're still missing a 23?
We're still missing about 13.
So that's 23 is 13. Have we talked to those districts, and are any of those without a contract? Have we been communicating?
None of the 23 except for Okolona are without a contract, but we know the Okolona situation. I have spoken to 3/4 of the districts that are still outstanding. Most of them have a plan in place. Several of them should be getting their audits in. I've already spoken to OSA, who has agreed to prioritize those when they come in. So we should see a significant reduction in that by the next board meeting, hopefully.
But they're acting in good faith, and there's an active effort, and for most, they're actively working towards this.
Sure, and they've been very clear about the steps that they have taken and where things have fallen down. A lot of times it's ended up being because there's been turnover in administrative staff. There's been a lot of difficulty sometimes in continuing work with the auditors when they are having staffing difficulties themselves. There's also the CPA firms that are doing the financial preparation, not getting, in fact, I spoke to one district a couple of weeks ago where the CPA firm doing their financials said, well, we're not going to work on yours right now. We're going to prioritize the 25 audits. And so they just got pushed all the way to the back burner. Well, their solution was to spend a whole lot of extra money, but go out and find a firm that would get it done so they could get back on track, because they actually have a plan to be completely caught up with all of their audits by July of this year, which is admirable.
I've done a little research with some CPAs, and, we do have a problem in Mississippi with a lack of CPA firms that do audits for a number of reasons, of which we can't control. How many of these delinquent or late are due to they can't find an auditor, or a CPA firm is just...
I would say with the number of audit firms that are consolidating due to retirements or loss of staffing to bigger firms that aren't focusing on the smaller school district audits, I would say a good number of them. I would say probably the majority of them.
Because of that, so...
Has something more to do with a lack of the resources. Yeah. Some of it is the inability of school districts to do a lot of their own financials in-house. And that's going to require a lot of different types of training at some point.
What I learned is that a CPA firm, to do a school audit, has to have a peer review of the AICPA.
Yes, sir.
Which is about a $30,000 annual expense. And thus, many of the small ones don't want to do it.
That's correct.
In Southwest Mississippi, there used to be 6 CPA firms, 2 in Brookhaven, 2 in Natchez, 2 in Macomb. None of those do audits anymore. And I noticed that in the delinquent audit we saw report in February that every single district in Southwest Mississippi was on the list. So you have to wonder, does that tell me something? I'm afraid I don't want to penalize a school district because there is an issue with finding CPAs that can do or will do the audits.
And we appreciate your research. We had the same, we've known that information for quite some time. But the issue is that we're held accountable at the federal level for ensuring that there are consequences for districts that are not maintaining their financials. And that's why I really wanted to stress at the beginning of the conversation that it's not like we're trying to just go out. We understand the circumstances. And I'm sure any hearing officer or any member of the Commission on School Accreditation that would make a panel, as well as the board, if these districts came before you and provided the evidence of what they've already been submitting to our offices, of how they've tried to accomplish, I'm very sure that would be taken into consideration before the sanction is there. But I think we're now moving forward, and we're in compliance at the agency level, which we're held accountable for by having a policy in place that's very clear that there are sanctions and that we're moving forward with those sanctions when it's appropriate and when it's necessary.
So what I hear, Carly, is that you guys are going to be very serious. We're going to have a place for them to be worked through. those that have corrective action plans that can put in documentation, the lack of, and what they've tried to do and what they're doing, we just continue to help that group move forward as long as they're doing what they need to do to work through this process.
That's correct.
And then as it becomes older and older, then we begin to ask the question. You kind of move to the top of the list. If you've given a correction action plan for 3 years, there's no progress. So then that puts, so it's really a system of you guys having to measure out. Let's make sure we get to exactly what we asked for as a board is don't let somebody get to us that we don't know ahead of time. And what your solution is covers that original request of this board.
Yes, sir.
Beyond the policy, I mean, ultimately, these are all symptoms of a cause that we really don't have any power to fix the root cause, but what can we do? How can we help? Because this is, if you're waiting on people aging out and shrinking and consolidating, that's probably not stopping. And this probably continues to grow in scope.
Yeah, it's going to get worse.
And I mean, are there things that we can do from what we require, what's required of us at the Fed level, that we can help the districts be more compliant? And I understand now that pretty much everybody's gotten the same accounting software, which to me seems like that'd be helpful. Almost everybody's moved to Marathon, because that's what's required up here. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
That's
the
what a
answer
lot
to
of
that
people
question.
use.
I mean,
Yes,
the
sir.
benefit,
It's
it
not
seems like
required.
if you can get all the districts, and it's not something we can mandate, but if you get all the districts on the same software, then every audit firm knows, basically has a basic starting point. And if you can get them all with the chart of accounts or the how things are coded, you know, we looked at districts just that we look at the financials on, you know, certain revenue items were coded completely different. And so, but if we could help the schools get to a common standard or a common template, then that should help every accounting firm that walks in, because some of the delay is that it's not there, it's not built, it's not at all what they expected, and they spend a ton of time recreating, which really is beyond what they should be doing. If you could get them all to a starting point, that's a common starting point, that seems like a really good help or accelerant to address some of these problems. And I don't know how we do that, but I think things like that.
That is an awesome idea, but ultimately the district has to make the decision.
Yes.
That's where I think.
I know we can't mandate it, but I think.
Well, and I think one thing that Paula said that I think is extremely important is the mays and the shalls in this. It's, look, if you're doing what you can to do this and you're in constant communication with them saying, hey, we're trying and all that, obviously, as she said, they're going to go to the worst offenders first. So there's going to be a grace period in there naturally just because they don't have the capacity. The thing that we shined light on this starting in November, because it really became emphasized to the board with Oklahoma, because it was a disaster. There's no other way to say that. We don't want that anymore, and that was the whole purpose. What I am encouraged with is that we passed a temporary rule about 60 days ago. And y'all have already told us what the progress is, which means the sunlight, one thing we can do is shine sunlight on it, and it's working. I'm very pleased at what y'all are learning about these districts. They're communicating with you. They're saying, hey, we have these problems. The district that you just mentioned, Sam, we have a corrective action plan in place that we're going to try to get all of our audits done. We're 3 years behind, but we're going to be caught up in July. That is phenomenal. And that's the point, is the whole point with all of this, I believe, was for us shining light on this, is we don't want any more Oklahomas. And the fact that people say, hey, you need to prioritize your audits to do things. Maybe you have to spend more money. And to me, it's, if I were in a district, like Bill mentioned, and they didn't have an auditor in the area, I'm going to Arkansas, I'm going to Alabama. I said, hey, come do my audits. And I'd rather have an audit there with a firm that's not on the list, but it's done, and it's done right, and worry about that part than not having an audit at all. Because ultimately, if you're 3 years behind in your audit, I don't care what kind of organization it is, that's a problem. And the potential for issues turning into Oklahoma grows exponentially. So.
I raised that question about going to other states with my research, and I was told that may not be legal. That may not be allowed. But the other piece of this goes back to what Matt was saying is we're not and we cannot solve the auditing problem.
True.
This is a legislative or state audit department issue that maybe we need to have that dialogue, that we have a problem we
And we're-
want to do, and y'all got to fix it.
Yeah, I think we're actively involved. I think
We
OSA has
are.
been
We're
very
already-
engaging with us on this.
Right.
I do want to follow up, though. So the marathon, what audit programs are out there? Because it's kind of my understanding we're down to maybe one or two that are, and I'm trying to get to the point of, can those be uniforms in what we're asking? For what we're asking for from the state level is uniform.
I wouldn't say asking, because we can't, we have.
No, what I'm
We
talking about
could
is
mandate if it were funded.
procedurally,
If it
code
were funded,
numbers,
we could
and all that
mandate it.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, so all that is uniform. One of the things, so two people have said this, I'm not interrupting you, but Sam and I, we met, I don't know, we talked like 2 hours, like about a month ago. And she has some great ideas about putting training together, to your point, about making sure that business managers, if you will, have the, not just a playbook or a toolkit, but this is the, like back in the day when federal audits would come, you had the box, right? And you had all the stuff, and it was helping do the training. It's required to come once, twice a year. And we literally lay out for you, this is what you got to have. Because sometimes you're right. Sometimes it is a lack of training, and they've never been in the school world and don't know the steps. Mr. Reese, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're not interrupting me. I'm just, because this was a conversation that I may have misled Matt on. I want to make sure I get this straight. A lot of us have had to change to a new financial platform. Not demanded, but it makes the system run better. Is that not an accurate statement, or am I off base?
We haven't mandated any of that.
No, I'm not.
But don't we at the state level require certain data points to come in a certain way with things coded similar for the reports that we aggregate?
Yes.
That's what John's world uses is expecting a certain, they have to format, cleanse, recreate, whatever you want to call it, what they get. So they said, this is what we need. What we need is aligned with what Marathon can provide. So I think there's been a move of districts to go so they can be consistent with what they have to provide out.
The question is the scope
Yeah.
of what we collect versus what would be needed for an audit. But I think the vast majority of districts do use Marathon. I think Integrity is another one. I think there's a few other, maybe that might be one of them. But we do have an API that reads directly every night from those platforms. The question is going to be, what would an auditor need versus what would be required for our purposes?
And I think too, part of that would be if the communication between the district and the auditor, if the auditor says, hey, I can do this cheaper if you have these systems in place, it makes more sense to me, just from a common sense standpoint, that the district builds those systems in place to make it easier for the auditor to do their work. And using the common thing, if the district, let's say, doesn't have Marathon, their auditor says, hey, if you go get this and get trained on this, this will make the job a lot easier, and we'll be faster with doing our audits.
If there was some coordination for a template, basically, that's repeatable by every district, if they would adopt it, they know they're gonna have the boxes checked, they know they can meet the requirements, and the auditors know this is what they're looking for. If you get to a standard, even a recommended standard for major stakeholders, I just think it would help the overall problem if we can start playing from the same sheet of music.
Well, and I think what Dr. Evans said that what Sam's suggesting is if she creates, I'm gonna call it the box, for all of these these business managers to the same toolkit, that may not attempt, it's a back-end way.
Same general, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
same
back-end
premise.
way, because you give those people the training on the ground floor to make things easier.
So here's what
I
we've
think
done.
that's an excellent idea.
So here's what we've done. We have brought the sun to it. We've got assurances from this office that they're going to prioritize these based on most serious. That we got a process for letting those that are struggling, working hard, but are struggling to meet it, to be able to come through, and they have the power to rank those. And I think the push forward still needs to be the same that we've started off doing back in November.
Because it brings us in compliance with our federal.
Exactly, and that keeps the federal law. So I think we're in great shape is what I'm trying to say.
Correct, and then there's even the thing is, okay, if they've gone down all the road and done everything and the district hasn't complied, and they have to pull the trigger to change, to recommend change, there's a problem. That doesn't mean it's over.
Correct.
They're not the end.
Right.
It's, okay, there's a next step that you have to appeal, and if they bring their thing, the hearing officer says, if they say that MDU's wrong, that's fine, but it's not, we're not being the be and end all. It's just, we gotta move the ball forward, and this moves the ball forward by giving everybody as much chance as they can. Because like Paula said, if they get to somebody who has a corrective action plan, who's trying real hard, who has things in place, and maybe they've got it in place, they're 3 years behind, and at the 11th half hour, their audit firm bails on them. You know, it may force them to do something, but if they get that in front of a hearing officer, and the hearing officer reverses it, that helps everybody. It helps us from the standpoint, we're trying to keep everybody compliant with what we have to do. And it helps them because they have a good faith basis for why they didn't do it. So but at the end of the day, it keeps everything moving forward with these. I think the biggest problem to me, when we shine the sunlight on it, there was a lot of nothing being done. And I think everybody's awake now.
And at the end of the day, we don't get caught off guard like we have in the
Correct.
past two schools. And that was the major goal.
Well, and one of the biggest things I'm curious was the amount of communication y'all were getting with people. And by this communication, I think has also helped Sam, you realize that, hey, these people might need some more help with this, so we're gonna put together a program to give them training. Which, and then again, to me, is if you have a district who doesn't have the training and we start offering this and they don't show up for the training, that goes in the bucket of, you're on this, you're not getting off the list anytime soon.
And I just think it's important to note the number of staff and the program offices that are involved here. I mean, it's not just internal audit, it's not just accountability or accreditation through accountability. I mean, it's Ms. Wiggins and operations. I mean, recall there's a provision in the new policy that you're deemed at risk if you're 1 year late, which is going to trigger some resources and information and work with school districts that they do on the school financial services side. And then we have Mr. Craman with OTSS. So there's with the data reporting. So there's a lot of hands on deck here. And Sam and internal audit, they're working with the state auditor's office. I mean, we're not going to discontinue having conversations about the fact that there's a lack of audit firms. I mean, what can the state auditor's office do in us working together? How can we solve some of these problems? So it's multiple offices here, multiple agencies. So our work's not done. We're moving in the right direction, though.
Let me ask this question. I like what I'm hearing, I agree what's going on. But one of the things two of the CPAs told me is that who they used to do these, the district audits are like this thick, but they do community college audits and they're this thick. Is that our fault? Is that legislation fault? Why are they so hard to do?
I'm gonna guess part of that's federal.
There's probably a lot more federal programs.
And y'all could help with this question.
I think that's a good question.
Is the biggest part of the audit the federal stuff that they have to do?
It is.
Okay.
It is. In fact, the only reason that they have to have these audits that we look at is because they are receiving a certain amount of federal funding.
So that, unfortunately, that creates the issue. That's the thing we have the least amount of control over.
And that gets into
Or
money.
influence with.
That gets into money things for those auditors.
That's
They can't afford to do that. So how do we fix that for them? I don't know.
I don't know if it's, like I said, if it was a legislative thing or a state auditor thing or our own policy thing, those are things we can have control, influence over. When it comes to the federal dollars, that's a bigger conversation, and unfortunately, we're all stuck in the same boat.
And Mr. Craman has some information, I think, that'll answer Mr. Mayhew's question.
Yeah, so I mentioned 80, but it's 82 districts, not percent, but 82 of the districts. That means that there's 70 that use either Munis, which is from Tyler Technologies, or Integrity. And there are some smaller probably districts like charter schools probably that they're just using spreadsheets. They're sending us flat files. So that's the best picture I can paint of the distribution of.
But you're running spreadsheets of the smallest district total revenue is still millions and millions of dollars, and they're big enough they're getting at least, is it 750 in federal dollars?
It was 750. After this year, it'll be $1 million. And if they don't meet the $1 million threshold, then they are not required to have a federal audit.
That's remarkable, that's been run on spreadsheets.
Well, they sent us flat files for those couple, manual input, or a manual upload for the few, I don't have the exact count, but 82 use the system that's out of Central Access up in Ridgeland, and then those other two split the majority of the remaining 70 districts, and I think there are a handful that are doing file uploads for us for the financial data. Only that we collect what's in our authority, mostly around personnel, and how they're spending down the dollars.
John, do you have an idea of how many of those 80 are not in compliance right now that are actually with Marathon?
I'd have to do a crosswalk.
Yeah, we wouldn't have that information. We could
We can
determine
certainly do it,
that.
but I don't have that right now. I've never asked that
Well,
question.
we could ask Marathon to look at that, correct?
Oh, we could crosswalk the list. We have the
Yeah,
lists.
I mean, we know the list that have outstanding audits, and we know the list that have marathons, so to Mr.
Yes.
Graham's point, we could crosswalk
That
that.
would take us about a minute to do that, but we have to pull the data together.
Right. And I think too, going back to, I'm calling it Sam's Toolbox for now to come up with a better name. If they come to training, the spreadsheet folks come to a training and realize that, hey, if you use this, your life's gonna be a whole lot easier. And it may be cheaper to go with Marathon or one of those other things. That could be helpful.
And I just want to clear up, I don't think it's necessary that they may be doing more than spreadsheets. I don't know what they're doing, but they're submitting flat files to us, which means they're
Sure.
extracting data from somewhere, or they're maintaining it in spreadsheets and submitting that flat file to us through a manual upload process. But again, these are probably very tiny, but it's.
No, and I get that, but I'm just using that as an emphasis, is they may not be aware of, hey, you get a whole lot more bang for your buck if you switch over here.
Yeah. But it would be easy enough to crosswalk the list of who's doing what against the list that you all have and get that back to the.
Can I add also that if these business offices had the training that they found useful, they do get training, but some of them say that it's either like drinking from a fire hose and they can't really take it back and use it, or it's not something relevant to the problems they're having. But if we could get the business offices some sort of, I don't know, mentorship, training, whatever, to get them to where they were comfortable doing a lot more of their own financials, they would save time and money by not having to farm them out to a CPA firm that's not doing their audit but is doing their financial preparation, then bringing it back so that another firm can do their actual audit. You would, like I said, save time and money and also help correct this problem.
Let me speak if I can.
Stand up,
Into
Kim,
that.
stand
Through the Office of School Financial Services, we actually by statute are mandated to provide certification training to any school business manager. And so we do that on an annual basis. And I think the last time I was here, I shared some of the discussions Dr. Evans and I have been having regarding expanding the scope of services provided by the Office of School Financial Services to include compliance, so that we're able to look at some of these things like districts who are passing budgets that are in a negative. We've just not had the capacity prior to this to do that. But we've also begun the work of looking at the certification program. Right now, we do invite the auditor's office. They participate. We do invite members from the vendor community, Marathon, Central Access, to come and to present to school business managers there. We've also partnered not formally but informally with MASBO to provide additional training and supports to school business officers. We do recognize that really is a tremendous area of opportunity for us. And so that is one of the charges that I've made a commitment to Dr. Evans to look at in the coming fiscal year. Is we actually had meetings with the state of Louisiana. They have a really robust mentorship program. And so we've been speaking with the director of that program, and she's provided us the framework for what that looks like. And so on our side, we're trying to figure out how to build that infrastructure for what we have and to determine and identify the resources that we'll need in the coming fiscal year to be able to expand that. So there are services there's a training component and requirement for all business managers at this point to be able to service such. But one thing I'll also add to this conversation that I do think is important is that there is a profound shortage of school business managers. They are retiring at a tremendously rapid rate, and many of them are not interested in coming back. And so on contract, and we've seen that a lot in trying to marshal resources to support those school districts who have come to us to, quite frankly, identify their struggles. And so we're making some inroads within state, and we're also looking at the potential for out-of-state support in terms of providing. And what we're seeing in some of the smaller districts is that not only is it difficult to find a school business manager, but not many people want to relocate there. And their costs for audits tend to go up because you do not have the kind of trained staff or no staff at all. And so many of them are relying on retirees and contractors where they can find them. And so part of the work that we're trying to do is to build a pipeline too for people who would be interested in doing, because education finance is a little bit different. It's a different animal. And so being able to find people who would be interested in moving into that particular financial work is also part of what we're looking to do in the Office of Financial Services.
Sounds like to me that the best thing a district that has an issue is to call, because there are several resources available. And I'm going to go out on a limb there. If you're calling and asking for help and agreeing with a plan, it's going to help you keep off the naughty list.
And since Okolona, we've had districts now to feel more comfortable reaching out. And we've had some leadership change in that office. And the particular director of that office now actually was a compliance auditor. And so from the Office of State Auditor. And so many of them knew her from working in the school districts with them. And so she's got a level of accessibility to some of the school business managers that perhaps our prior one did not have. And so we're beginning to have those and build those relationships so that we can gain more visibility into what their actual financial pictures are before we get to such a profound state of criticality.
Mr. Chairman, I'll bring it to a head. I move that we approve the standard in light of the information we've been given, the attitude which we will approach it, and the resources that we're continuing to work towards.
Do I have a second? Dr. Barrett. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, very good. Thank y'all. Again, we initially...
I would like an extension. I would like...
You cut out, you're abstaining?
You froze now, too.
It's freezing.
Mike, did you say your vote is to abstain?
Yes, please. I think this is an incomplete solution.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Next, with our consent agenda, we have items A through N. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Mayo, do I have a second? Dr. Barrett, thank you. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay. We have no executive session needed this time, I believe. All right. Does anybody need to report on any meetings they attended? Does anybody need approval to attend any meetings? Okay. In our other business, there's one item to move our April meeting date from Thursday, April 16th to Wednesday, April 29th, 2026. This is related to several staff members, including Dr. Evans, having to head to DC.
For USDE.
Yeah, for a USDE event that they've been invited to. So that would move it from Thursday, April 16th to Wednesday, April 29th.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Mr. Mayo. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right. Our April board meeting will be held on Wednesday, April 29th, 2026 at 10 a.m. in this boardroom. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second. Can I make one comment?
Then I won't take your second, Mr. Comment first.
Y'all all heard the School of the Arts Choir, which if you haven't seen them in person, it's even better. But next Thursday, there's a special event in Brookhaven, which I think all of us are invited, but if not, I'm going to invite you. So a very major event going on in the School of the Arts in Brookhaven.
Okay, now I'll take your second.
You'll provide it? No.
Now I'll take your second. All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, thank you, everyone.